Kevin Costner has many classic Western movies, but it's not the genre he's best at. Kevin Costner is seen as one of the modern icons of the Western genre for good reason, but his work in another genre is even more extensive and impressive. Costner's various Western movies have been a big part of his career, and it is hard not to associate him with the genre these days, thanks to his beloved role as John Dutton in the hit neo-Western series Yellowstone, as well as his ambitious multi-movie project, Horizon, an American saga. His time in Western movies goes back long before that, with some of the most acclaimed movies in Costner's career. However, Costner's sports movies have also been a big part of his career, and likewise have made for some of his best films. Both genres allow for crowd-pleasing and exciting stories, but also give Costner some very different characters to play. While there is some debate among fans about which genre stands out as the best in Costner's career, looking at the collection of movies in each, there is a clear argument to be made that Costner is at the top of his game within the sports genre. It makes sense that Kevin Costner might be more associated with the Western genre than the sports genre, as Westerns have been a big part of building his legacy in Hollywood. Following some early smaller parts, Costner got his breakout role in the fun Western ensemble Silverado, stealing scenes from the likes of Kevin Kline and Danny Glover as the fun-loving gunslinger Jake. It was that movie and Costner's terrific performance that led to him finding big starring roles in The Untouchables and No Way Out. However, it was Costner's next Western movie that really cemented him as an A-lister in Hollywood. Dances with Wolves is based on the novel of the same name by Michael Blake, follows a Union officer in the American Civil War who forms a bond with the Sioux community in the land he is overseeing. Along with starring in Dances with Wolves, Costner made his directorial debut with the Western epic, which led to him winning the Oscar for Best Picture and Best Director. Westerns have also been a way of Costner reminding audiences of his A-list powers. Following a string of disappointing movies that somewhat knocked him out of the Hollywood top tier, Costner directed the hugely entertaining Western Open Range, serving as a comeback for the actor. Likewise, his role as John Dutton in Yellowstone gave another career resurgence to the actor, which allowed him to make his passion project, Horizon, an American saga. Indeed, these Westerns have played a big role in shaping Costner's career from its beginning until now. While Kevin Costner's Western movies have some true classics and highly acclaimed movies, none of them are really in the conversation as the best Western movie of all time. However, he may have achieved such a feat in the sports genre with the brilliant Bull Durham. Costner plays baseball player Crash Davis, an experienced catcher nearing the end of his career in the minor leagues, who is assigned to mentor a talented but naive pitcher, Tim Robbins, as they both find themselves competing for the same woman, Susan Sarandon. Bull Durham does what many sports movies are afraid to do, and that is blend different genres. It is a romantic comedy set in the world of minor league baseball. However, that is such a richly realized world that it makes for a perfect backdrop for these relationships. Baseball is not just how these characters come together, but it is the most important thing in their respective lives, and the movie explores how it means something different to each of them. While there have been many baseball movies over the years, Bull Durham does the best job of showing the romance of the sport and why people fall in love with it. It might surprise some Kevin Costner fans that the actor has starred in more sports movies than Westerns at this point in his career. This goes back to the early days of his acting, even before his breakout role in Silverado. One of Costner's first major films was in the forgettable baseball movie Chasing Dreams, which was followed by the cycling, coming-of-age story American Flyers. Following his leading man roles in The Untouchables and No Way Out, Costner further cemented his status as a big-name star with winning performances in Bull Durham and Field of Dreams. The mid-90s saw some career stumbles in both of Costner's go-to genres, with Wyatt Earp and For Love of the Game failing to connect with audiences. But the Gulf rom-com Tin Cup continues to be seen as an underrated gem. Costner continued with his more mature sports movie roles later in his career, with Draft Day and McFarland, USA. To date, Costner has starred in 8 sports movies and 6 westerns, including the neo-western Let Him Go. However, Costner could see this record even out if he is able to go through with his plans to make 3 more movies in the Horizon franchise. It is certainly hard to compare the work Kevin Costner has done in Western movies and sports movies. But in the end, the sports genre is where he has been the most impressive. This comes down to the simple fact that, while Costner has made some great Westerns, he also made 2 of the greatest sports movies of all time, with Bull Durham and Field of Dreams. Though Dances with Wolves earned more accolades, it has not had the lasting impact of these 2 sports movies, which have aged wonderfully and are still beloved decades later. Along with these 2 movies being iconic, they also show the versatility of Costner's work in sports films. Bull Durham and Field of Dreams were back-to-back baseball movies. However, it in no way feels like Costner is repeating himself, as they are remarkably different projects. Bull Durham is a funny and charming rom-com, whereas Field of Dreams is a magical and uplifting story about fathers and sons. Costner has also delivered some of the best performances of his career in these movies. Crash Davis in Bull Durham is perhaps the best character of Costner's career, as the actor brings out the charm and humor in the rom-com's leading man, but also plays him with vulnerability, as this man who has loved baseball for so long begins to see he can no longer play. Field of Dreams' wild fantasy story is grounded by Costner's performance, as this man driven by some force he doesn't understand, but is determined to see it through. Costner is great in Western movies, but he typically plays the stoic hero each time, save for his more comedic performance in Silverado. The sports genre has given him more range as an actor throughout his entire career, playing real characters rather than larger-than-life heroes. Field of Dreams and Bull Durham are especially great reminders of why Costner is one of the most popular actors in Hollywood. When people hear the name Kevin Costner, they often hear the faint sound of spurs clanking, the distant gallop of a horse, and the haunting whistle of a lonely prairie wind. His face, weathered yet charismatic, has become nearly synonymous with the modern Western. From Dances with Wolves to Open Range, and now Yellowstone, it seems as though Costner has planted his cinematic flag in the soil of the American frontier. But while he's become a beloved cowboy in the eyes of many, it's a misconception that Westerns are the genre he's best at. Because truthfully, Kevin Costner isn't just a cowboy, he's a chameleon. Costner's Western work is certainly legendary. Dances with Wolves earned him 7 Academy Awards and forever etched his name in Hollywood's history books, not just as an actor, but as a visionary director. His quiet, contemplative portrayal of Lieutenant John Dunbar gave the genre a sense of soul and authenticity that had been missing for decades. And then there's Wyatt Earp, Hatfields and McCoys, Silverado and Horizon, each one reinforcing the mythic ideal of Costner as the eternal frontiersman. But even with all his boots, hats, and 6-shooters, these roles aren't necessarily where his talents shine the brightest. Kevin Costner is at his best when he's in roles that explore emotional vulnerability and moral ambiguity, not just in the dust of the West, but in more complex, often modern narratives. In fact, some of his most memorable performances come from stories that are firmly rooted in the present, or even the future. Take The Bodyguard, 1992, for example. It's not a Western, it's not an action flick, and it's not a sweeping historical epic. But what it is iconic. Costner as Frank Farmer, a stoic and emotionally reserved former Secret Service agent, tasked with protecting a glamorous pop diva, played by Whitney Houston, might sound like the plot of a glossy romance, but he brings something deeper. Underneath the protective exterior is a man grappling with guilt, loneliness, and the inability to connect. He doesn't wear cowboy boots or carry a rifle. He wears a suit and a constant expression of silent turmoil. And it works. It's not about wide-open landscapes. It's about what's happening inside. Then there's Field of Dreams, 1989, a film that borders on the magical, and yet it showcases Costner at his most grounded. Ray Kinsella is an everyman, plowing through cornfields and chasing whispers from another dimension, trying to reconcile his past with his present. It's a film that, on paper, sounds ridiculous. A man builds a baseball diamond in his backyard because a ghost tells him to. But Costner sells it. He plays it with a kind of honest confusion and faith that turns a bizarre premise into one of the most heartfelt films of its time. No horses, no saloons, no shootouts. Just a man, a dream, and a lot of corn.